Hello everyone, in this video we are going to talk about ecology, the second part which relates to energy flow. The essential idea of energy flow is that the ecosystem requires a continuous supply of energy, and all we know that this continuous supply of energy is the sun. This continuous supply of energy needs to fuel life processes and to replace energy lost as heat, because during the life we lose the energy as a form of heat, and it is not going back. It's the heat energy, and the only way that we can get the energy back is coming from the source which is continuously provides that source for us, which is sun. And in the background you will see a very beautiful picture from the sun. The image shows an eruption. This area shows eruptions on the surface of the sun. Without a constant stream of solar radiation, much of the life on Earth would not be possible. And the sun's energy is the source of energy in the vast majority of the Earth ecosystems. What are the skills and understandings which we need to learn at this stage? It relates to like knowing that ecosystems rely on the supply of energy from sunlight. The light energy is converted to chemical energy because it stores as a form of carbon compound that we know by photosynthesis. Also, there are chemical energy in carbon that will be used by feeding. The energy released from carbon compounds by respiration. Living organisms cannot convert heat to other forms of energy. Heat is lost from ecosystem. We will learn how it happens in the layers, in the different layers of energy, of pyramid or pyramid energy. Energy losses between trophic levels. We also learn about the trophic levels and the quantitative representations of energy flow using pyramids of energy. I am telling you that this is a very simple and easy and understandable unit and section. It doesn't take just too much time because almost we know most of them. Ecosystems rely on light energy which is coming from the sun, but we also have some systems that they are doing chemoautotroph, or they're doing photosynthesis, not photosynthesis, they are a chemoautotroph. They use, instead of light, chemical energy for preparing foods, or for making, or for synthesizing. So all plants and some prokaryotes are photoautotrophs, and they use the pigments which are called chlorophyll, and they trap the light, and then they convert the light energy to chemical energy. This is how it happens in our photosynthesis. But in a very few ecosystems, the producers are chemoautotrophs. For example, in here, the volcanic vents on the ocean floor, which use energy from chemical processes. So by the usage of the chemical energy and chemical reactions, they do the synthesizing, okay, not from the light. And all of you know about what is autotroph. Autotroph is converting energy, light, and by fixation of the carbon dioxide into form of carbon compounds. So sunlight and fixation of the carbon dioxide, and then the formation or synthesis of the sugar by the photosynthesis, and the release of the oxygen as a byproduct. What are consumers? Consumers are located in this diagram, which they are starting to consume from the producers. And what does it show? This shows a food chain. In a food chain, there will be a flow of energy through the different trophic levels. And these trophic levels are feeding relationships. And what is trophic level? Feeding position of organism in a food chain. Feeding position of an organism in a food chain. For example, this is a producer, and the trophic level is considered as producer because they are getting energy from light and produce. And then the second level will be called primary consumer. So the trophic level of here is primary consumer, the trophic level of here is secondary consumer, and the trophic level of here is tertiary consumer. And each food chain shows the relationship between the animals and organisms. So that's the meaning of food chain and consumers, and you will see the different examples from the woodland food chain, from the Arctic food chain, and from freshwater food chain. And in a food chain, again, a producer will be used by the primary consumers, and these primary consumers definitely would be herbivore because they need to eat from the producer, which are plants. And then the secondary consumer, they could be carnivores because they are eating on primary consumers, or they could be omnivore. This means that when there are omnivores, means that they are eating on both. So they can eat not only on the primary consumer, but also they can eat on producer if they are eating plants. So in that case, they are called omnivores, that they eat both. And the tertiary consumer, so they can eat on the previous level of secondary consumer, or depends on the food chain, so they can eat on the previous levels. The energy stored in organic molecules, primarily carbohydrates and lipids, can be transferred by cellular respiration to ATP. That's what we learned in the respiration. And the glucose as a food, which has been created or synthesized by photosynthesis, then can be used as a source for breaking down and releasing the energy into form of the ATP in the mitochondria. But the thing is, the energy transfer from the glucose to ATP is not 100% efficient in a way that there are some heat loss and there are other energy in the different forms that has been lost. Here is very nice picture and diagram. The input of the energy here, 100%, because this cow is eating 100% from the producers or from the plants. But from that 100%, 20% will be stored in their tissues, but 65% will be lost as a form of heat due to respiration and the activities. So 25% of the energy will be stored, but 65% will be lost as a form of heat. And there are something like 10% other form of lose or will be lost as a form of excretion. So in that case, become 100%. So you will see that there are large amounts of the energy which has been lost from the producer from this level, and 25% will be stored and the rest will be lost as a form of heat and excretion. The energy loss will not be come back and cannot be used. You can read this part. Unlike light and chemical energy, organisms cannot convert heat energy into forms useful to the organism. So once the energy will be lost as a form of heat, then that will be lost. It cannot be converted to useful energy anymore. You can see that these useful energy transfers from chemical energy could be like kinetic energy, example like muscular contractions, the electrical energy like nerve impulses, light energy like bioluminescence, chemical energy like what happens in anabolism, sound energy during our communication, and the heat energy, body temperature in endotherms. These are some useful energy transfers that can be used, and that energy will be used at these forms. But once the energy will be lost as a form of heat, then you can see that how much heat will be observed in this pattern of this bird. And since he or she is using a lot of energy for staying and flying, so you will see that those areas in which the respiration is high shows the high amount of the energy release. So because of the loss of energy as a form of heat, then the ecosystems require a continuous supply of energy, which is sunlight. Let's have some question and answer. Pause the video, read the question and answer. Which cellular activities in the energy that is contained in the carbon compounds used for nucleic acid synthesis, diffusion, movements of components within cells? Yes, 1 and 3. Next one. What is the pyramids of energy? The pyramid of energy shows the flow of energy between trophic levels, and it starts from producers and then primary consumers, secondary and tertiary consumers. It's so simple. The only thing that you need to remember about the pyramid of energy, one is the unit. So the unit of energy per unit area per unit time. So when we measure the pyramid of energy, we say kilojoule, which is the energy, kilojoule per square meter per 1 year. So the amount of the energy per each square meter for 1 year. So that would be the way that we are talking about the energy. So transfer of energy is never 100% efficient, and this is the number that you should remember every time that you are asked how to calculate. You should know this number. 90% of energy will be lost from each trophic level to the other one, and this is a perfect example how to remember. If you have the 1000 kilojoule per square meter per 1 year at producer level, then the energy will be passed to the primary consumer, that will be 100 kilojoule, and 90% will be lost. This means that 900 kilojoule will be lost as a form of the heat energy. And again, from 90% loss, so 90 kilojoule loss, and only 10 kilojoule will pass to the next trophic level, and again 90% would be 9 kilojoule will be lost, and only 1 kilojoule will remain at the end. And when we draw a pyramid of energy, the higher level will always get smaller than the previous levels due to the loss of energy. You can also remember that because every time there is only 10% will be passed. So once you are drawing this pyramid of energy, you have to kind of draw a 10% comparing to 90%. So 110 you should draw as energy, and 910 will be lost. So this means that the size of this pyramid of energy also can be 1/10 of the size of this one, and again this one 1/10 of this one, and again this one 1/10 of this one. So you should kind of have a balance when you are drawing these trophic levels, because there will be only 1/10 for each trophic level remained, and 90% or 9/10 will be lost as a form of energy. The energy losses between trophic levels limit the length of food chain. The length of food chain will be limited. You will see that. Usually, nota bene, most food chains contain between 3 and 6 organisms. Each food chain, this is the average number of the organisms in each food chain, starting from producer and this primary, secondary, tertiary, and the final one. And why? Because this energy will be lost 90% at each trophic level, and also the biomass will be lost too. That's why we are drawing the energy pyramid of energy at the end, because the energy will be lost and also the biomass. The biomass relates to the organism. So we don't have a large amount of biomass at the end of the pyramid of the energy. So as the trophic level increase, the biomass and energy will be decreased. And higher trophic levels are often less efficient as more energy is spent on foraging more mobile prey. Energy will be spent. For example, if there's an eagle here, eagle is spending a lot of energy for doing for their prey. So that's why the number of the eagles here is less than the number of this consumer that he is using, like for example rabbits. The number of the rabbits are more than the number of the eagles. The biomass at this level is more than the biomass at this level, and the biomass here is more than here, and the biomass here is more than the other. And this is actually the reason, we will discuss this later, that using the producers as a source of food is much more energy efficient, because we don't lose the energy to take this food, but we use this energy level which has more biomass. Okay, eventually the energy required to forage exceeds the energy gained from foraging, making the trophic level unviable. Explain the flow of nutrients and energy through ecosystems. This is a perfect question, and you will try to answer this question by pausing the video. Now pause the video. Okay, you pause the video, you answer the question, and here we go. How do we show the 8 marks over here for answering this question? Energy flows linearly, nutrients are cycled. So this is the energy flow, which is linear, but the nutrients will be cycled. Sun energy goes to the producers. Producers have some heat to release, and this is the red arrow shows the release of the heat, and all of them have some heat loss. And then the producer will be used as a nutrient, will be used by the consumers. And these consumers, there are a lot of consumers that they are eating on each other. And also these consumers should be decomposed by the decomposers. So these composers are having very important roles. And decomposers also not only decompose the consumers, but also decompose the producers as well. And that's why the arrow is going to the decomposer from every side. And when the decomposer itself is going to be decomposed, broken down by the saprotroph, which are like bacteria and fungi, that with the heat of release of energy from the decomposers, because they are organisms, they are animals like worm, like woodlice, and those are all decomposers. So they have the loss of energy as a form of heat, and they will be used as a form of nutrients or as a form of food for bacteria and fungi, and totally saprotrophs, and they are doing digestion out of the cells. They send the secretion outside, not inside, so they don't have ingestion. And finally, they produces a lot of nutrients, goes back to the soil, and again these nutrients will be used by the producers. So pause the video and read these if you want to write accordingly in your exam, one by one and step by step. International mindedness, food chain energy loss, and the alleviation of world hunger. Let me read it very fast. In 2010, malnourishment was estimated to have caused the death of approximately 1.5 million men, women, and children worldwide, according to an article in the medical journal The Lancet in December 2012. According to the Human Society International, there are still 1 billion people worldwide who are malnourished. As human wealth increases, there are increasing demands for meat products. It takes 3 kilograms of high-quality grain to produce 1 kilogram of meat or dairy product for human consumption. Okay, this is very nice definition. Only 10 to 20% of the protein present in the grain actually produces the animal protein consumed by humans. If humans ate vegetable products, which are at a lower level in the food chain, the lower level of energy wasted would allow a greater population to be fed and decrease malnourishment. That's the nice statement related to international mindedness. Okay, let's go and answer a few questions. Which of the following accounts for restricted length of food chains? Pause the video and answer. The low efficiency of energy transfer between trophic level. Next, in a grassland ecosystem, the food chain is as follows. Grass, 2 beetles, 2 foxes. If 1 million joule per square meter per year of sunlight is assimilated by the grass in the food chain, how much energy would be available to the fox? So you should be able to calculate based on that 10% keeping and 90% loss. Yes, you got it right, 10,000 joule per square meter per year. An ecosystem loses energy at each trophic level. How can energy be regained? Pause the question, pause the video. That's right, by photosynthesis. And thanks for watching, and that was the end of the slide. Hope you enjoyed it.